You've made team lead. Congrats. Now what? Hi, my name is Tomasz and I'm a former tech lead and manager. And today I want to talk about 5 things you should do first when becoming a team lead. In a perfect world, your manager would have a series of meetings with you to guide you through your new role. But that's not always the case. Most of us are thrown into the deep end and expect to perform. So, here are things that I always do when I take the team as a lead. First thing is meet with your team members. The first thing you should do is talk to your colleagues. These are the people you will be working with on a daily basis. Team makes or breaks the lead, so having a good relationship within the team is crucial. Before you start sending your Zooms or your Google Meets invitation links, make sure to know what you will say. Going in without preparations sure gives this laid back, chill vibe, but it might look like you're really not knowing what you're doing. So, what should you say? Some must haves are an introduction of yourself with your background. How did you get here? What experiences do you have under your belt? What makes you the person for the job? Highlight your strengths and try to lean into your interlocutors' experiences to connect with them. Another thing is a brief vision of how you see working together forward. What would you like to introduce to the workflow? What worked in your previous companies? This meeting also should help you get to know the people you will be working with. Ask them to give you a brief introduction of themselves. What's their background? What are their past experiences? What are their hobbies? What do they think is missing in the team? What do they think is missing in the company? And what works and what doesn't work for them. But don't expect like 5 hours conversation. They will most likely be reserved because you don't know each other yet. This is completely normal and to be expected, and the important thing is not to push them further. If you see they are getting uncomfortable, just back off and that's it. Before sending the meeting invitation, I also like to just drop them a note on Slack saying, hey, I will send an invitation to have an intro call, and this costs virtually nothing and it really pays off. For the duration, I like to keep it roughly around 30 minutes with like 15 minutes around to spare just in case, because some people might want to talk more. The next thing you should do is meet with your stakeholders, product owners, marketing, design leads, other team leaders. It shouldn't really be that different from the meeting you had with your team, because after all, it's an intro call. When introducing yourself, highlight your experiences with working with people on a similar position. For example, highlight how you introduced or improved design and development handover, or how you introduce estimations and offer support. But make sure to underline that you are currently onboarding and you will most likely also require their help. When talking with those guys, make sure to ask some questions. For example, what are their expectations towards you? What are their expectations towards your team? And what do they see that is working, and what do they see that is not working in the current workflow? Once you talk with the devs, you've most likely heard at least something about the code base, but nothing beats going through it alone. So clone the repo, read the docs, and note all the observations. For example, can it be installed easily? Will newcomers have hard time setting it up? Does it require any internal knowledge to get it running? Does the pipeline look understandable? Can it be modified by someone who is not a senior engineer or DevOps? which parts of the applications are changed frequently, which are dormant for, I don't know, months or years, and what observability options are there, which parts of the applications are measured, and can you see any bottlenecks, any strange behaviors, any, I don't know, things that shouldn't be there. Note these findings and eventually address them with the team. There's nothing wrong in asking questions and showing that you do not know everything. It is certainly better than pretending like you know everything and just making a fool of yourself. So you've analyzed all the things your colleagues and your co-workers told you. You made some notes, jotted some ideas for what's to come. You have an idea of what people like and what people do not like. You see how the team is perceived by the company in general. Great, so now what to do with this? Now take a step back. Put these things in the back burner and try just to be present in the team for a few days. Normally, I take a week or even more time just to see how the team works together, how the team behaves together, and just be there and listen what is going on. Just see the pulse of the team. Don't take any assumptions, any notes about this, just listen. What people told you is very important, but remember that we are all biased. And you as a newcomer have this unique perspective of seeing things from the outside. During this time, try to note what pain points are there. Are there too many meetings, or the meetings are too long, or too many tasks in the sprint, or the other way around, there is not much to do? How is the communication inside and outside the team? Are people on the same page? Maybe there are some things discussed on the Slack or in private meetings that are then being introduced and treated as official. Who works with who? Are there any pairs of developers that work together good? How can you utilize this further? Who is the natural leader of the pack? Who is like a go-to person? Who mentors? And how are stakeholders communicating with the team? Last thing is, are things reported but problematic by your previous interviews really show up often? How do they look from the outside? This will allow you not only to know how people think, but how they work. You will have your own observations and it will allow you to formulate any and all plans and further steps. But do remember that those things might change and they most likely will change. So even if you are entirely sure, make sure to take it with a grain of salt. Okay, so armed with all this knowledge you've accumulated throughout the last weeks, it's time to be the leader. One of the most important qualities of a team lead is the ability to play the long game. This step is the hardest one because it requires analyzing all the findings and condense them into an actionable items. You will most likely find two types of actions: short or long hanging fruit and long term. For the first ones, like minor code problems, flaky tests, weird pipelines, or too long or too numerous meetings, these can be addressed rather quickly and rather easily. They don't really require that much work from you. If there are code problems, you can just spare a few days from a sprint to investigate this. If there are flaky tests, again, this can be investigated and solved if you just put someone on this full time. If there are numerous meetings or too long meetings, try to analyze which are the longest and which don't require all the team members and work with that. But there will be, most likely, problems that will take you far more time and effort. For example, lack of stakeholder communication, too much sprint information, too many tasks in the sprint, and internal conflicts. Sadly, those things cannot be addressed and solved within a week or two. You will need to dive deep into analyzing this and seeing why this occur. Why stakeholders are not treating your engineering team as equals. Are they treating them as tools? Are they ignoring them? Why this happens? Why there's too much story points in every sprint? Why nobody has fought against it? And if they have, why it didn't work? And for conflicts, if there are conflicts in the team, remember that we don't have to love each other, but we should at least be professional enough to be able to work together. Not everyone is capable of this, to be frank, and it's your job to see how to solve this conundrum. Because the important part is, if you have conflicts, you cannot let this spill on the entire team. Doing these 5 things should not only give you an idea how the team works, but also how the company works. So from there on out, you should formulate both short and long time plans and start emboldening the strengths of your team. Thank you for listening, for staying to the end, and good luck with your role.